Hi everybody, welcome to my channel where we do hard things because we are no longer slaves to fear. It's been a long time since I was here. I will try to be more consistent, and because that is part of the reason I started this channel, to help me do the hard things, to help me become a better person and share my journey with you and help you grow as well. In today's video, I'm going to talk about something very difficult for me, but I feel like today is a good day to talk about it without having tears floating on my eyes. I'm going to talk about divorce or separation. Karibu sana, let's get started. So first of all, I am not married yet. I have never been divorced, never separated, but I have very close friends and relatives who have been married and then divorced and separated, and it has affected me in ways that I did not expect it, and in ways that I didn't know divorce affects the people around it, especially family. So the first way that it has affected me is grief. Oh my dear Lord, you grieve with them. When you see your loved one grieving the loss or the separation, goodness, you feel their pain. Sometimes you don't know how to help, so you just let them get through their pain in the best way they know how. There's nothing that you can do that will take away that feeling. You can only do so much. So sometimes you probably will cut them some slack if they were to do something. You give them a little more grace, a little more understanding, but it's not easy because you're not there in that situation. When you see your loved one cry, when you see them just lose hope, sometimes you feel like, I wish I could. You deserve better. That's the thing. You see someone and you feel like, God, why should they suffer like this? They're good people. They shouldn't suffer like this. But that's the nature of life anyways. It is harshest, especially to the good people. So yeah, you grieve with them. The other way is you start trying to understand what might have happened that led to their divorce or separation. Especially for these particular couples I'm talking about, they were like role models. I used to admire their relationship and I prayed to God. I said, God, hey, love me. Let me find a love that is so tender, that is so gentle like that one. Let me find a man who adores me as much as he adores her. And from time to time we would interact, and for some of these couples we wouldn't interact, but I admired them from afar. And then to hear that they're no longer together, it's difficult. What might have happened? These nice people who loved each other so much they couldn't get off of each other, who are so kind to each other. What might have happened? What is it so big that might have happened that couldn't be forgiven? Now you start listing down what could have happened. Maybe you did that, he did that. Why couldn't he have forgiven here? Why couldn't she or he forgive there or here? And it especially gets very tricky when the person closest to you, maybe you see that they would have done better in some places or in a certain way to make the relationship better, but could that have saved their relationship? You don't know. You're just hoping, couldn't they have done this? I mean, that was so simple. You could have just forgiven them. And sometimes you're a bit careful to ask what happened because they're still grieving, or they probably don't want to talk about it. So you just let it be, and if they open up, well and good. Although sometimes I get to ask what happened, and now I start looking, oh, so those were the red flags that you didn't see, that I could have probably missed them also. Oh, so these are what red flags look like. And let me tell you, red flags are totally green flags. Sometimes they look like the best things. You wouldn't believe it. And especially when you're married young, you don't see it. Let me tell you a story. I remember my first heartbreak was when I was in campus. Was this my first year or my second year? No, actually, my first major heartbreak. There was one where I heartbroke somebody, story for another day, but now this one, we had broken up and I cried. I remember crying and calling his friend, asking him, how do I go on with this life? My whole future was pegged with our lives, both of our lives together, intertwined. I had pictured my future life with him, everything. Oh, poor me. I was such a young girl. But yeah, I did not see hope for this life, in the sense that I didn't know how to move on. Luckily, we broke up on it was a public holiday, so my friends were there. I went to their room. I cried the whole day. They comforted me. God bless you, my friends. They comforted me, and I can tell you, heartbreak is difficult. And imagine, that was just boyfriend, girlfriend. We had barely stayed a year, and I felt that way. So imagine somebody who they've committed their whole lives to this person or to each other, and then somewhere along the way, somehow it doesn't work out and they have to part ways. How difficult must that be? If I can compare what I felt then to what divorce is, my goodness, I don't know how people get through it. It's hard. It is hard. And it took me a lot of time to get over it. I was so young, remember? And then imagine, guess what? Later that year, it was Mother's Day. And then suddenly, I'm now healed. I'm looking at life in a positive way. Things are starting to line up again. And then suddenly someone texts you, Happy Mother's Day, future somebody. Or to imply that you'd make a good mother in future. Really? And then you go back to factory settings, and then you start to grieve again. So I can imagine what divorce looks like. There is constant grieving. There are things that are put on the way just to make you, to remind you, that nudge you, that just poke you. They unravel your wounds and you have to start all over again. The healing journey is not easy. And I can imagine the different situations of people. It is not easy. And you wonder, why couldn't they make up? Sometimes you even try to help them get back together when it might not be in their best interest. But you just don't understand how this happens. And in a way, it creates a fear inside of you, because you start comparing your relationships with what they had. You say, okay, they were good people. I have something good going on. Their problems or the incompatibility or the problem started at this stage. So there's a fear in you. Okay, will it be the same for me? Will mine work? What do I have to do to make it better? And honestly, sometimes I have a lot of fears, wondering, will I one day walk that path where I will not be with my partner and say, okay, now let's call it quits? I'm like, I should be able to forgive. I should be able to be forgiven. God, let it not get to that point, because divorce is terrible. Separation is terrible. And I can tell you, when it involves children, it's even worse. You see, these nice, beautiful children, they are used to being with their father and mother in the same setting. They still experience both the love from their parents, but when it's not united, it's different. You can feel the gaps that start to build in these children. You can see their parents struggling to fill up for those gaps, and it is heartbreaking. I mean, God designed that our family is complete. It is not His will that people separate or divorce. Children suffer when two people separate and divorce. It redirects their emotions and feelings, because now some might start being more attached to a given parent. Children start to pick sides in terms of, mommy is better at this, daddy is better at this, I want this from this person, when initially it was given as a package. Father and mother will discuss, okay, this is good for our daughter, this is good for our son, and then offer it to them. Oh, it is heartbreaking when children are involved. It breaks my heart. Even God bless people who co-parent. God bless people who are able to make their children get the love from both parents amidst the separation, because children suffer a lot. And for goodness sake, I know sometimes it gets ugly, sometimes it gets difficult, but for heaven's sake, for all time's sake, protect your children. Protect your children from hurt. I mean, at some point they will need to understand what is happening. They see what is happening. Children are very smart. You will need to explain to them. But I hope you find the grace and the wisdom to protect them from all the adult dramas, all the adult hurt and pain that comes with this separation and divorce. Because children don't deserve it. Children are happy people, and to see children coil back because of particular situations is the saddest thing ever. And sometimes you're living in a place where you don't know what will happen next. You're in an emotional roller coaster. Like there's a ticking time bomb. What if this happens and then suddenly something goes wrong? And then there's that back and forth. And I have seen people go to court because of you're not able to go your separate ways amicably. But guess what? The children, in my opinion, are the ones who suffer the most, because now they have to go and say, I don't know how it works, but now the children literally have to sometimes relive those moments that they didn't want to, or the moments that they saw that were difficult and painful. And I remember at one point in one particular situation where a child was involved, and they asked me, will mommy be okay? Will daddy be okay? Do we have to involve the police? And then will they have to lock them up away? You know, innocent questions that you see their concern. I mean, they can clearly tell, here mommy was wrong, here daddy was wrong. But does it mean the police is coming for them and they're gonna lock them up? So imagine just seeing such. It's heartbreaking. It is sad. And another way in which it has negatively affected me is you wonder how to act, especially with the other party that is not your close family member. I mean, if it was a father, mother, and they separate and you are related to the mother, then of course your loyalty or just will automatically lean onto the mother. But then, so now here comes the problem. You used to interact well, so what happens now? Do you stop interacting with the other person? Do you, when you meet, how is the atmosphere? I know there's some people who are able to separate what happened, but especially when you know what happened, when you understand the story, when you are there when the story unravels, sometimes it's difficult to interact with the other party because you'd want to ask them, why didn't you do this? Why did you do this? It is so hard, and you wonder, but you are a good person. Let me tell you, when people say that you are in denial, it is true, because at some point you're still in denial. But how could this happen? How could you do that? Why? You ask yourself so many questions that you don't have answers to. Only time can heal. You also get yourself to a point where you fear for them. Are they okay on the other side? I mean, you're with your person on this other side, you're trying to offer them support, so you're hoping that on the other side they're being offered the same support or even better. Because I mean, okay, to make it clear, I know people go their separate ways because of different reasons, and in some situations you wouldn't even want to think of the other party because of whatever maybe they did. Might have been very grievous. Some people, might have been very grievous, yet still you find yourself hoping and praying that they're okay. I found myself praying for them. God help them to be okay. May they never lack, for the sake of their children, for the sake of their sanity. May they find people who will love them completely and very well. May they be able to reciprocate that love. Because if we go on these cycles, I mean, will we live in a broken world? So you pray for them, hoping that if they move on, may they get people who will take care of them, people who will just make their life better. You leave it to God. I mean, it's sometimes simply, it's better or it's easier to just leave it to God. You just pray that God helps them, and you hope that they are okay on the other side. So as I said before, you start wondering whether your own relationships will work. You start doubting yourself. But on the positive side of it all, it makes you reconfigure your trust in God, because there are all these fears within you. But remember, I am a child of God, you are a child of God, and God protects his children. I believe that God will make my marriage even better. I am not perfect. I know my partner will not be perfect, but you get to set that new hope that God will indeed work things for you. Despite the fears, God is still in control, and you don't let the fears overwhelm you or redirect your focus. And that is why some other time, together with my friends, we were encouraging ourselves that let's start listening to more positive stories marriages that are working, because the more you listen to these stories, you will never get married. It is horrible. The things that people go through. That is why there are so many people who just want to date and not get married. Nowadays you hear of people who just want children and that's it. They don't want to get married or be involved further. It's crazy. It's because of all these things that happen in marriage. The divorce, the separation. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of emotional turmoil, pain that sometimes pours onto generations. So yeah, this has given me a newfound hope that even if theirs didn't work, even if it seemed like it was working but it didn't work, I will not let that fear reign in my heart. I will leave it all to God, and I will trust God that He will work it out for me. And another thing that it has done is it has helped me be more intentional in how I approach my relationships, in how I solve conflicts. This happened. It helps you to start being more forgiving, to create better boundaries so that you don't have to tolerate things that will eventually ruin your partnership or marriage. It helps you start communicating better. How you feel, what you don't like, how you don't like to be treated, how you appreciate doing things. It helps you want to serve the other party more. And let me tell you, when you're in a relationship, that is when your own selfishness comes out. If you thought you're not selfish, I am sorry to tell you that when you are with that person, especially sometimes when you think that it's the right person, oh goodness. Sometimes I look at my own insufficiencies, the selfishness. It's crazy. So it's helping me to be more, to look within, if I can put it that way, to look within and ask myself, what can I do better? Bilia, how can I be better in terms of communicating, in terms of serving my partner, in terms of being more resilient, in terms of setting godly high standards? Because children of God, you shouldn't lower your standards just because now you want your marriage to work. In fact, lowering your standards or compromising on your standards is what, in my experience or opinion, is what now starts poking holes in the beautiful thing you've created. If you don't like something, be direct and be truthful and open about it, without having side or without being ashamed of what you stand for. Yes, without being ashamed of what you stand for. If you stand for a particular thing, be clear with your partner that this is what I like, I don't like this. So it is helping me to be a better human being, to be more intentional. It's a lot of work, but yeah. So turns out there are good things that can come out of divorce and separation, but generally speaking, I do not want divorce. If you can love a person, if you can forgive somebody, especially if it is asked for with contriteness, it is good that we learn to forgive, especially because God the Father has forgiven us. Yes, there's so many other things that I have not been able to express in their rawest emotion, but thank God I was able to do that today. If you have anything that you've experienced as a third party from people around you, you can share it so that we can learn how to overcome them. And yeah, Thank you so much for joining in. See you next time. We'll hopefully talk more about this topic some other time. Have a lovely week.